were with the relationship. And after putting all that together, I just called Brittany and let her know that I was going to say no.
Ooh-wee. Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We are talking to you guys about Married at First Sight. And baby, you could have not predicted this. Look, let's be honest. Will saying no to Brittany is not a surprise. Okay, she kept on telling him on every given turn how he should feel and when he should feel it, and how to say it and when he should say it. Okay, and that's never going to work for somebody who wants some level of control over their own life. But I must say, I think that he's saving her, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't think he ever liked her. I'm gonna be real with you. We've been saying it all season long. I didn't feel like he wanted her. So to find out that they obviously come to an end, I'm not mad at it, if I'm honest with you. And thank God he saved her having to go on decision day and hear a different answer. But I have a feeling he might say something different on decision day. He might change his mind. But I'm glad he told her no. It was sensible. It was necessary. It was necessary. It was important that that happened, and so I'm glad. Okay. Then we also have another couple, Chad and Belinda, who are seemingly crumbling. Can I be honest with you? Both of them are a problem. Okay. All right. And I think he correctly kind of said it with Dr. PR, where both of them are trying to control things from their particular perspective. They both do the exact same thing, but in very unique, different ways. And so, therefore, it's obvious why they are not going to get along. You know what I'm saying? True, I get it. I get it. Why? Because both of these people are afraid of being hurt. He is rigid. She feels like, she feels like she has to make sure she's not going to be betrayed. And so I always get that these two are going to be tussling back and forth, because it's not they have to work out their traumas. Now I will say this, Chad, why would you open your mouth up and say that Josh is suffering, even if it's true? Even if it's true, even if it's true, why would you open up your mouth to say that this situation, that Josh is also suffering too? It got nothing to do with you. You ain't gotta say nothing. Besides, that's her daughter too. So you gonna say it? She gonna verify and check. Why do you think that she wasn't gonna go back and check, bro? You cause yourself more mayhem by opening your mouth. Pat and Rhonda, let's be honest, I'm sick of it. Now, Pat, I need Rhonda to pack it in. I need Rhonda to pack it in. Every time she talks to Pat, it seems like she's trying to teach him something. Teachable moment every given time. That brother better say no. Okay, that brother better say no, because it can't be every conversation you have. It's literally, okay. It's literally her trying to It's literally her trying to teach him something like, this how you meant to do this, this how you meant to do that. Why are you? I'm like, bro, after a while, do you not get tired? Will you not rest? Will you not find peace? You gonna keep doing this all day, every day? Come on now. Come on now. We're struggling for no reason. And then we also had Josh and Jalen. Now, nothing really crazy on this episode happened. They actually came to a conclusion in episode 12, which I'm really glad. But I'm still not over the fact that he lied. Okay. I'm still not over the fact that he has an ex situation. I'm still not over that. I haven't forgotten it. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, this brother gonna do some stupid stuff again. And she keeps mentioning stuff saying, she feels like he might be just saying yes just to keep the peace. And I'm thinking to myself, sis, your instincts are correct. Your instincts are correct. Brother keeps saying yes, but I don't believe his yes is actually a yes. So I'm with you. I'm really with her on that aspect as well. Then we got Megan and Derek. This episode, last two episodes, we didn't get to see as much with their situation. What we do know with Megan and Derek is that they are pregnant, and he is very happy. Sorry. That he's very happy. They met the parents. The parents have been doing a little bit too much. And then they had 3 kids. I want to be honest with you. Having 3 kids for a day where you're both at home really isn't a strong test because you're not going to be always be at home. But I love the fact that they did do that because it gave them a little bit of an insight of how it looks. Megan says she cannot. Okay, Megan looked like she can only do 1 kid. Megan's the type of person right now. It seems like Megan gonna be like, you know what, you have the kids. It looks like, you know what I mean. It's gonna be like a you have the kids kind of moment. It feels like so. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. On this breakdown for episode 11 and 12. I'm sure I'll get obviously a couple other people to join us in a few minutes as well. But let me get into this breakdown because I want to talk about some stuff on this episode and really just be able to break down some of the stuff that happens because I feel like there was some interesting conversation. So let's first and foremost deal with Pat and Rhonda, their situation, because I thought it was diabolical. This conversation with Rhonda and her breaking down with a friend, I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? I'm sick of it. Rhonda, get it together. Okay, let's talk about Rhonda quickly, and we'll talk about Rhonda and Pat real quick. Let's just deal with them quickly because I can't. They showed us Shegate in this episode, so let's look at them quickly as well. Okay, all right, here we go.
Relating it back to my life.
Right.
And Pat's immediate response is, the song means something totally different to me.
Right.
It really takes me back to...
I'm just going to say that was a stupid behavior, and you need to fix that. Yeah. Right?
Okay. Now I want to be clear. I wish the friend didn't open his mouth because you don't know half the story. I wish the friend didn't open his mouth because now you done made it worse. So let's talk a little bit about this friendship situation, this where the friend obviously got involved. Here's a key thing about the scenario, okay? Pat does need to relate to Rhonda a bit better in terms of allowing when she shares things to allow things just to settle and then be able to, be able to give back onto Rhonda what she needs, which is listen, ask 1 or 2 more questions, just to get a bit more insight before sharing. But in this instance where she said obviously that, he said how he felt about it, I felt like he was trying to connect. When he said obviously I feel like, this song for me makes me feel like this, that should have been a moment that Rhonda should have been like, wow, I never really saw it from that. It's interesting how we both see it from different perspectives. Like, I love the fact that you see it from a different perspective and I see it from a different perspective. But she seems to be on him every single time. And unless the show is not giving us a good edit and making Pat look better than he actually is, something is missing. And the missing piece that we're looking at right now, so far, without there being more evidence, is that Rhonda is looking for a therapist, not a partner. What she's looking for is a therapist, not a partner. Because, again, when we're talking, we are relating. But I also understand when someone's talking that you ask a few more questions. Okay, so what about it? But the what about this thing is for, I call it the deeper ended conversation. You get me? Yeah. When I'm having them kind of conversations there, it's because someone else also has the same trauma that I have. They ask deep questions like that. And I love those conversations, but they're not with my partner usually. The reason why is because they don't need to ask me, so what did you feel about that then? And how did you go? I don't usually expect that from my partner. I actually because I'm not very talkative as well. But my thing is, if you say, oh, you like this song, and I say, oh, I like that song, this is what it meant for me, I don't mind you going like, yeah, and for me it meant like this, and I saw it like that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, so long as you're returning volleys, I'm always good for it. But it does seem like with every single conversation with Rhonda and Pat says anything, she's on him like a flash. No breathing space. Always trying to, correct him and let him know that there's something else he could have done. But let's just continue playing a bit more of this clip to show you what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, and I haven't fixed it yet.
Yeah. No, but you want to. Of course. All right. You can be all right?
Yep.
This man's never going to win. Pat's never going to win with Rhonda. And that's why I also say this, because I also feel like when people are giving advice, I need you to stay a little bit more neutral, my guy. I need you to stay a little bit more neutral when you got both couples in front of you. Because I feel like when you don't be neutral, what ends up happening is one person feels like they're being left out and they're being alienated and they're being dumped upon. And he's already got Rhonda dumping on him. What needed to happen was a bit more understanding on both sides to understand where each person's coming from. Okay? All right? And so on that particular space, again, Pat's being dumped upon. So now it's like Pat just can't do right from wrong, right? So he goes to his friend. His friend's also saying like, "Nah, that was stupid." But you didn't actually. It didn't feel like you knew the whole situation. Like, yes, I agree that he needs to be able to relate, but it also needs to be a balance. If I am relating, give me some grace as I'm relating. You know, give me some grace here. You know, and I feel like that Rhonda's looking for something that can't be given in this space, right?
You guys aren't letting go of the other crap. You keep pecking at it.
Sad. So sad.
I'm feeling like I can't win.
So if you don't know what happened, it's you know, yeah, exactly. Because the reason why is because Pat's got people around him just like his parents. Yeah, Pat's got people around him just like his parents, and the reason why Pat's got people like him around is because Pat doesn't trust his own voice, and that's the problem. If you want the deepness of as to why this actually happened, when people like Pat have been in households, when he explained it, he said he grew up in a household where he was trying to be perfect. He was always trying to please, okay, in order to get the affection and the validation. So what happens? You don't trust your voice. You only trust your performance. And what ends up happening is you find yourself also in friendships where you're also performing and you're always looking to measure yourself up against somebody else's standard. The friend, I get it. He was trying to help, but in the end, all he did was end up slating Pat even the more. And, you know, really and truly, there should have been a bit more understanding coming to the play. You now know both sides of the table, you know, like be a bit more open. But because Pat doesn't trust his own voice, he's now entrusted the voice of reason to this man here. And that's going to be his biggest problem. He needs to learn how to be more assertive with his voice. Because without it, Rhonda's going to keep running him over, and even your friends are running you over, right? And you know when he got mad is when she came back.
Last thing you should be sorry about. Do you want to share it? Or do you want to walk past it?
So how I feel is I feel like he doesn't care.
Now, in this situation, it's interesting because she came back and you know, the friend was actually doing some good therapeutic talk. He said, listen, do you want to talk about it or do you want to walk past it? Yeah. Friend didn't know a bomb was coming his way, bro. The friend didn't know that you two gonna get it as well. You're gonna get that same smoke. You thought it was Pat. You better find out that it's also not Pat, because you better get that same smoke. And that's why he should have kept his mouth shut and actually kept the balance. He didn't. Now look what happens.
Like I share, like in the middle of talking about my father's death, and Pat obviously wasn't listening. And so I tell him in the moment, and he like has a hard time receiving it. And then later there was something so silly as a conversation about sharing calendars that I'm then spinning on.
And
the key thing here, okay, about this is that she doesn't choose her timing very well when she comes. And here's the thing: she's sharing with him, but she's testing him. That's her problem. And he called her out on it about an episode ago. When she tells him deep things, she's actually testing him. She's not telling him to share. It's not about sharing. For instance, you're telling someone the deepness of your dad's situation while they're driving a car. My guy, we're not even in a position to have a conversation. Okay? And they can't remember every single detail you just said. You want a therapist, you don't want a friend. Right? And so when he replies and says, how, you know, hey, look, I'm trying my best here. You're gonna scold him again because really and truly his best can't match up to your level. It's not that he's not listening. He is listening. He's paying attention. He's trying to mesh with you. But you want him to be like a therapist You want him to be able to like ask these really insightful questions. But the reality of the situation is, hey, that's not for your partner to do. That's not for your partner to do. That's for your therapist to do. Okay? That's for your friend to do. Yeah?
In general, she has interpreted all those interactions as, you don't care, you're not interested in my life, and you don't give a shit about me. And it's just not true. You know, when she...
And because Rhonda hasn't been held accountable for a very long time, because Rhonda has been a mother of 4 kids and no one else can tell her what to do, because she is the authority in her relationship with her kids, and she's the mother, the parent, the dad, the provider, all those things. She's had nobody to tell her that her attitude stinks apart from her son, who told her, like, give a man room, let a man be a man. But she won't do that. She'll keep emasculating him because she's actually really afraid of being led. She's afraid of a man leading her because, again, she's been leading all her life pretty much and leading 4 kids and 4 sons. That's why I can't. No, let's be real. Can we be honest? When you saw them sons, what did you really feel? Let's be real. No, let's be freaking real now. When you saw them boys, let's be real. How did you see them? Did you see them as strong, assertive males? I didn't see that. But I'm being judgmental because I don't know the fullness of the depth. I'm being very judgmental. But when I saw them, I said, ooh. I don't see them as being very strong. I don't see the sons as being very strong. And it's because the mother has disempowered these young men. Because the mother has controlled and said, we will do this, we'll do that. And young boys need young men. And this is unfortunate, not having a father figure. That's on that father figure. But not having that father figure can really stump your growth. Because now the authority that should be another man is now a woman. And unfortunately, she can only tell you how to be a man to a certain degree. Right? So she has been the boss for a very long time. How can another man like Pat, who doesn't have a voice, who's not confident, tell her what to do? He can't. He's going to keep triggering her. Okay.
Sharing something that's vulnerable, I have been really, really trying to work on responding to that emotion. But despite my efforts of doing better, I'm being held to a standard that I can't achieve, you know? And in past relationships, when it wasn't working, then
And really and truly, what needs to happen is this. You see, when Pat pulled her aside in the car, yeah, and told her to fix up, you see how she responded? You know, when Pat told her to fix up in the car, yeah, and said, listen, stop this nonsense shenanigans, and pulled the car over, yeah, when he did that, did you notice how she had to settle down? Did you notice how she had to soften up a little bit? Here's my thing that's happening here. Until Pat decides to step up and stop taking her crap, she's going to keep giving him crap. Until Pat says, listen, enough's enough. You've said what you need to say. I'm sick of your bull crap. If you want to connect with me, connect with me. If you don't want to connect with me, don't connect with me. But stop trying to boss me around. Stop demeaning me. Stop talking to me like an idiot. Because I'm not an idiot, right? You keep talking to me like I'm a little child. Stop it. And it's the last time I'm going to say it because I don't have this conversation again. Until he can step up to the plate and say those words, right? He going to keep being in the same position. Yes, Rhonda needed a Chad. Should have fixed up real quick. Okay? All right? That actually wouldn't have rushed. Okay? Pat needed a Belinda. Yeah? Someone who's going to be feeling. But they did it on purpose. Because remember, this is an experiment. And so what they're doing is, this is something that you needed to learn. So Pat needs to, so in this instance, Rhonda needs to learn how to be softer. Pat needs to learn how to be more assertive. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You're supposed to learn. That's what this experiment is about. You're supposed to learn. And these people are teaching you what you're missing. Right? They're teaching you what you're missing. And so actually, you know, I look at Pat and Rhonda and I go, bro, if you could just put your foot down for a second or two, bro.
I doubled down and tried to do everything to make this relationship work. And in the process, I completely lost myself. And I was just like, I'm last, everyone else is first. And that's the fear that wells up in me. It's just like, I can't do that again. You know, I can't.
So as he said, you know, he can't do it again, where he's going to be putting himself in a situation where he's going to be self-abandoning, which is what he actually did. You know, he's been self-abandoning himself and putting his needs aside in that space, right? And I feel like I feel like Dr. Pia had a good vantage point when they spoke about this a couple of episodes ago. And what should have happened was a pulling aside of Pat and saying, Pat, you need to be more assertive. You need to be able to assert yourself in a situation. It's a very good point. Yes, Pat is shutting down. And the reason why he's shutting down, and he told her in episode 12, I shut down, right? But she wouldn't listen. She was listening, but she wasn't paying attention because she still made it about be yourself. It's not about being yourself per se. It's the fact that obviously I can't show up safely because you are consistently scolding me like my parent. I cannot show up safely. And some of us do this. I've had to be told this. I've had to work on this. I'm telling you, this is something I've had to work on so I can recognize this in somebody else. I've said it before that someone told me that, you know, you're just too black and white. You're just too stern. And I used to think to myself, no, it's just because you don't know how to be accountable. But what I had to really check myself on was the reason why I was being so stern is because I'm afraid that you'll take advantage of me. I didn't know how to be assertive. I was being aggressive. So when I'm being aggressive, doesn't mean you have to shout or scream. Aggression can also be in the way that you approach a topic or a situation. You can be too heavy-handed. Rhonda is too heavy-handed. She is aggressive. She's actually aggressive. She's not assertive. She's aggressive. And the reason why she does that is because she's afraid, right? And so until she stops being afraid and talking about how he needs to show up as his true self and actually start recognizing you need to show up as your true self. You need to stop showing up as this authoritarian piece because you're afraid to be vulnerable and you're afraid to be hurt. Until you decide you're going to actually show up truthfully, stop talking about someone else. You're too focused on what Pat needs to do that you're not focused on how you're showing up and how you're not creating a safe space for the person to be in. That's what we got to the situation, right? Let's get this episode 12.
You know, to some extent, we were kind of an Air Force poster family. You know, my grandfather was a colonel in the Air Force and my dad was a general. So I felt a need. Then in relationships, I was trying to be the best husband, the best father, the best, and
So as you heard him say that he's trying to be the best everything, and the best everything really and truly, all it means is he at that point in time, he's performing, right? Whenever you're somebody who's like, I'm trying to be the best, I'm trying to be the best at this, I'm trying to be the best at that, you've got oftentimes an anxious disposition. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get ahead of the devil. You're like, if I be perfect, you can't abandon me, right? If I be 100 out of 100, then you can't then say something that I'm doing wrong, which will then lead to abandonment again or rejection. Okay. And so a lot of the things of I want to be the best usually is because you're afraid that the person will not accept you for who you are, which is a flawed human being. You are not perfect, but you are trying and willing to be better every single day. Pat is somebody who wants to be perfect all the time. And that's a problem.
Put a lot of pressure on myself to do that. So in some ways, that's where I lost myself before. And it feels like it's happening again. And I will say I felt a lot of pain in this experience. I felt a lot of anxiety. I felt a lot of emotions in this experience. And
now it's interesting because as Pat is explaining that he felt a lot of pain, a lot of anxiety in this experience, he felt like he had to be the best. He felt like he's, where did we see Rhonda ask him and say, oh, so how did you work through that? Where did we see Rhonda asking him those deep questions that she said she wants to have? Where did we see Rhonda asking him those deep questions to show that she's listening and hearing him? The man just shared how he's had anxiety and pain, and it's from you. But where are them deep questions that Rhonda needs to ask? Well, where those questions that you said that you wanted to be asked, where is your deep questions? We don't see it.
Those are not myself. You know, those are stressors on the core of
No,
myself.
but that is life. Pain is part of like who we are and what we have to experience.
I get it. There are times when I
Notice how she didn't engage with him. Oh, pain is life. Pain's a part of experience. You know, these are just things. Where was the deep questioning? Right? Where was Rhonda saying, wow, thank you for sharing that. I'm really receiving that. So like, how are you, how can we work on this to be better in this situation? Where was all that compassion? Where's all that question that you said you wanted to see? Where is it? I don't see it. We're not hearing it. And the reason why we're not hearing it is because Rhonda is self-serving. She's self-serving at this moment. And the reason being is because she hasn't worked out that there needs to be a balance when it comes to relationships. Maybe because she feels like she's been given to her kids all the time, that she needs a relationship where someone gives to her. But right now, Rhonda, the way you're coming across, it's not about anybody else but you. And I get it. You've been looking after your kids for how many years, and you've been plowing into them and giving into them and spending on them and just giving all your energy and time to them. And so it's only natural that you may go to the complete extreme where you are looking for someone to keep on giving to you. I get it. There's some real thought process behind that. I'm not even mad at it.
feel completely open to being myself. And I was in those moments. And certainly there were good times. But at other times, I started to go into protect mode. Well, if I feel like someone's attacking me, I'm going to go into protect mode. So,
do you feel like you're being yourself right now?
So now she asks about, do you feel like you've been yourself right now? Sis, where's the question about he feels like he's been attacked, he's going into defensive mode? Why didn't you ask more questions about that? So, oh, do you feel like I'm attacking you? Do you feel like, you know, that you're defensive of me? You know, none of those questions. Straight to, you know, why can't you be yourself? Do you think you can be yourself right now? And all you're going to do is going to end up saying, you can be yourself. You can be yourself whenever you want. So, babe, are you missing parts of the conversation? Nah, you're picking and choosing like we all do parts of a conversation to engage with. That's how conversation works. But you gon' nuke him for not discussing every single part of your conversation. Right? Yes. How can I say so you don't feel attacked? Exactly. None of that thought process, because she's not concerned about that. She's still concerned about herself. And that's the problem with that's the problem with Rhonda right now. It's too self-serving.
yeah, I do.
I feel like you are too. But I have kind of a big question for you. And I don't think you have to answer it now, but I think it's something you really need to think about. But can you
Have you noticed again the question is going to be like, oh, I have it wasn't long. I've got a question for you. Okay, cool. I've got to ask a question. Question is, you know, you don't have to answer it right now, but it's something that you need to think about. Rhonda, are you ever going to be in a situation where we are in this together? The question is even guided towards self. You know, the question is guided towards self. It's not guided towards anybody else. And that's my biggest issue with Rhonda. Again, as you notice, she complains about the thing that she doesn't actually do herself.
be confident and sure that you want to and can work in parallel on processing what's happening with us and working on coming together, building that friendship and trust, and like be your authentic self all the time?
After a while, you do have to ask questions, bro. Like, you do have to ask some questions, bro. You do have to ask some questions. Okay. It's tight. That's what I would say. It is tight. You know, as well. So yeah. Yeah. If I am Pat, I'll probably have to say no, you know, at this point, so that I can save myself the pain and the hassle. Okay. Let me quickly just dissect Chad, and I think I see Glenn's in the back there, so it's cool. I'm gonna get him on a second or two as well. Let me just quickly just have a quick conversation about Chad, and I'm gonna get Glenn on as well, because I think this conversation was interesting. Okay, because Chad, bro. Now look, let me just say this. I think Chad is well-meaning. I don't think he has any bad intentions towards Belinda at all. I think they could work. But you know what you got to stop doing? Putting your damn foot in your mouth. Okay? I know you felt stressed by the cameras, but why are we mentioning what happened to Josh? Okay? You were doing well, but don't mention Josh because now she can verify and fact find. Do you get me? And now she has to verify and fact find. You're not going to win that battle because, of course, Josh is not trying to shake up his own relationship. He ain't even told his own girl the situation. So why? You get what I'm saying? That's the problem with the situation. You know. So it's political in that respect. You know, it's political. I wish that he didn't. I wish he didn't say that. But brother was in tears, bro. I can't lie to you. I don't think I've seen Chad was tearing. He was tearing up, and she didn't even look at him 1 second. Belinda didn't even look at him for 1 second. Bro was busting out in tears. Look at this. Brother was in deep fried
That's
tears.
why I'm struggling.
I do believe that I've been honest, and I'm sorry that she feels like I lied to her.
So could this be a difference in perspective? It wasn't about him trying to lie to you. That's what he's saying right now. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
For sure. It is a difference in perspective.
Yeah, right, 100%, right.
She didn't even look at that man. She didn't even look at that man. She said she held her phone and then she looked away and I was like, broski, like, this situation, I get it. You know, I understand. I think Belinda's got her own fears. And I told you about Belinda on the very first situation they had when she got annoyed about the way that he dealt with the producers. And I said the way and she did it on episode 12 as well. Whenever there can be a situation where Chad can also share how he feels, when she starts to cry, everything goes out the window. Right? And I've already said this, that Belinda actually doesn't pay attention to his emotional cues at all. I say this because a lot of times people think that they're better than they actually are. A lot of times people feel like because maybe they're nice to people or nice in general, that they're actually able to they don't pay attention to cues. Mr. Q here, but she also missed the Q in the bed in the first argument they had, and she also missed the Q later on because then once she started crying. Okay, once she started crying about her situation, it no longer became about them; it became about Belinda's issue. Right, and also Belinda's biggest issue is she's not honest. When she feels how she feels, what ends up happening is she's afraid of upsetting him rather than just telling the truth about how she feels. There's so much depth and deeper things here going on with Belinda and Chad that needs to be worked out. He's too rigid, but then she's also very passive aggressive. So it's like when he feels stressed and anxious, he becomes even more rigid. He becomes more solidified. And when she feels like she's being controlled or she feels like she has no autonomy, she then starts the passive aggressive pulling away and moving away and, you know, not necessarily being connected. She starts to disconnect. And so that's why that conversation, she couldn't even look at that boy. Old boy was in tears. She couldn't even look at him. You know what I mean? So, but hey, let me get my boy Glenn on to discuss this, man. We're gonna chop it up today, man. How we doing, Glenn, bro?
What's up, Coach, man? How you feeling, brother?
I'm good, bro. I'm good, man. You know, this is this season, it's just come to an almighty head at this point. I was just talking about Chad and Belinda. I want to get your perspective. Episode 11 and 12 has been a interesting kind of ride. What's your thoughts on this couple here?
Like you said, I think I agree with you, man. Chad is too rigid. I mean, he's an ex-military dude, right? So his life has been structured for however long. He said he'd been in the military, and he also liked being in charge, right? So he doesn't like take orders from anybody. And you know, and I don't think he really understood what this production TV Married at First Sight entailed. And now he has to take orders. He's getting frustrated. You know, the thing that caught me was that he always said, when this camera stuff is over and when we get home, everything's gonna be okay. And I got worried for Belinda, right? Like I got worried for her. Like when this is over, how much control can he have? Because he wants control. He wants control. So now when you go back home with him and there's no cameras, there's no TV, there's just you and him, how much control? And she's moving to his house, right? If you think about it, everything is going to be him because she doesn't have a place. So it's all his control. So he will have total control in theory in this relationship. With her, she's walking on eggshells because she's still she's still healing from her past relationship, her past marriage, right? All the things, whatever her ex-husband did, we all know he was a pro athlete. So I'm just thinking a lot of that stuff he was out with different people, right? So now she's feeling some past hurts. And so she wants everything to be great. But she doesn't know how to respond to a guy when there's conflict, right? She wants everything to be peaches and cream and smooth, but there's a conflict in the relationship and she doesn't know how to handle. She don't know how to deal with Chad, who is kind of like an alpha male, but I'm gonna use the word usually rigid, who's real rigid and who's not willing to bend, and they don't know how to discuss how can we make this thing work. And he's like, I don't want to hurt your feelings because this is what a marriage number 4, right? This is marriage number 4 for him. So he's like, I'm trying to do everything to make it straight, but he's not being true to himself neither.
Yep.
So he's not, because you can't tell her that, look, I don't want to sleep with the dog. That's a problem. That's a small issue, right? That's a small situation. Hey, I don't feel comfortable sleeping with the dog because I don't like dog, whatever case may be, or he takes up too much space. But she wants him, I think it was last episode, well, I want us to spend quality time together, cuddle. My man ain't in the room because he don't want to deal with the dog. And he ain't trying to tell her that because that causes confusion. So I think both of them have trauma issues. Him from his past 3, her from her past marriage. He wants things to be dressed right, He want to be in control. She wants to give up. She wants to have some control as well because she's used to being told what to do. But she's like, I'm not doing that no more. Because remember, she never had a job. She didn't have. All she had to do was take care of the kids in the home. She had the soft life. Now she's out there. She out there grinding now. She doesn't have the life of a professional athlete's wife anymore. She has a wife of a businessman, but she does not respond to it or handle it.
No, 100%, bro, 100%. And I think with Chad and Belinda, I think it was really encapsulated with the conversation that they had when she came over, right? And it ended within a few seconds, and I was like, Chad, bro, this is not how you want the conversation to flow. She literally came over and they sat down for a few minutes, and before we knew it, bro, boom, the conversation was over. And I was like, Chad, you missed an opportunity here to really be able to kind of dig a little bit deeper to come to a resolution. And I recognize that he doesn't know how to conflict resolute either. I'll share a little bit of a clip so they can remind themselves what ended up happening here as well.
I talked to you about him being in the bed, and I didn't really complain about barking. I just said we need to look at a way to try to resolve this because we can't be barking all day long, no matter where he lives.
He doesn't bark all day long.
When you're there, he doesn't. But when you're not there, he barks.
How do you know?
Because when I walk up to the apartment, when you're not there, he's barking.
When you're walking to the door, he's gonna bark.
When I'm coming out of the garage, baby.
But you don't know if he's by himself.
And then so after this, he was like, you're arguing with me. And it's like, yeah, because we're arguing. We're having a difference of opinion. You know what I mean? So even though Chad may not be as conflict avoidant, he is conflict avoidant, but in a way of where he shuts it down. Where she's running, he's fighting. And his fight is he's going to shut it down. And, you can't do that if you're going to look for a long-term marriage. You have to be able, and I know what's happening to him because let me say I know what's happening to him. Let me surmise, I think the fear I'm actually hearing here is that Chad has been obviously been in the military. In the military, there is no back chat, right? You do as you say, and you get your commands, you get your orders, because it can mean life and death, right? It's a very authoritarian setup when it comes to leadership. Problem is, relationships are not the military. You build relationships in the military, but they are not marriages. And so what ends up happening is when you haven't learned that you can't take an authoritarian perspective on every single issue in your marriage, that actually there's probably more democratic issues you need to make across the board than authoritarian ones, you're going to ruin your relationships because you're going to come across as a controlling individual. And really and truly, what that does also is that because, you're in that space of authoritarian leadership, you're not used to challenges in the way of someone being a subordinate in your eyes and challenging you and having the right to challenge you, because you can veto in that space and say, well, you're subordinate. and if as long as I haven't broken the rules, you don't get to tell me what to do. And so a marriage doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. If you want it to work very well, it doesn't work like that. And he's using those same tactical skills here. They're transferable skills, but they're wrongly being applied. And so also, I think what ties into that and why maybe his marriages have been failing in the last 3 is that there may be some deeper insecurities around this as well. Some deeper insecurities in terms of, and this is something I've dealt with myself, so I know this can be very difficult. When you have been under an authoritarian parent or tutelage, what tends to happen is that you can build an authority complex, right? So you don't recognize that when someone does challenge you, it doesn't mean they don't respect you. Because authoritarian perspective is when they challenge you, they're not respecting you. But in a more democratic aspect, right? Someone challenging you, it's not about respecting you. It's about them having also some level of power to be able to say, I don't agree. I see it differently. It's not that I don't respect you as a person. It's that I just have a different opinion to yours. And you don't have to feel threatened by that. But I don't know if Chad has got that in him yet. And that's why he's going to keep shutting down the conversation rather than having an open-ended conversation and being able to be like, hey, look, that's how I see things as well, you know? But yeah, go for it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he never hears her, right? She's talking, but he doesn't hear what she's saying. Yeah. And I think she doesn't hear what he's saying neither, because again, a lot of their conversation, 2 things with the dog barking, 2 things can be true, right? He could have came home and the dog is barking, right? And you're not there, but he is there. So the dog barks. Because he doesn't bark at you, he knows your scent and smell. But I think this argument is much bigger than the dog, right? They're not even addressing the same issue. They want to make the dog the center issue. The center issue in this thing is that we don't know how to communicate with each other. We don't know how to do conflict resolution. We can't have a great conversation or try to fix what's going on without bringing it about the dog, because it never really was about the dog. The dog is part of it. The bigger picture is, hey, Belinda, Chad, you lied. I can't trust you anymore because you're lying about this situation. And Chad is like, why did you have to lie in the first place? Or even bring Josh or Jalen in here in this situation where it was dealing with us. And it was dealing with us being not communicating. It was dealing with me not feeling the intimacy, those type of hard conversations. And I think that's what she's learning, that she's learning how to have those. But they never say, I disagree, but I don't like that, but, have those type of conversations where we can sit down and talk. He has to understand, too, that in this new marriage that he in, if he hasn't learned from the last 3, as you said it, I can't dictate her, right? This woman has been hurt. I can't control this. What we can do is figure out how do Chad and Belinda engage with each other? How do Chad and Belinda interact with each other? Can't relate anything else because they still both have baggages from their past marriages that they're bringing in. And we've seen it play out on camera because she's like, I'm not going to let anybody ever run over me again. And he's like, you know what? I didn't say much in my last marriage, but I'm going to say everything I need to say now. And so you can see the 2 battling where they need to get on one accord. I didn't like Dr. Pia being on the phone, and just in my opinion. To me, that's if you can't make it, send Pastor Cal. Pastor Cal can't make it, send Dr. Pepper. I think sometimes the therapist needs to be in the room to control it. I think the phone, I don't know what she had going on, whatever, might be an emergency phone, but I think that was to me, it felt lazy, right? Because there's 3 of y'all on the show. These people have an issue. Let's try to fix the issue in person and let's see what's going on.
I agree, yeah, especially with the experts, because why are you telling him that he needs to have a schedule and he needs to be flexible and your ass ain't flexible either? You know what I mean?
Right.
you want him to be available and ready. You need to be available and ready as well. So yeah, I definitely agree that otherwise you can't be telling him that he should be flexible. So I definitely hear you on that, and I definitely agree with the Chad and Belinda aspect. I feel like it was again one of those situations where I feel like with Belinda too, you know, I feel like these two can make it. It's just a fight and flight response. They need to be able to have a time to be able to recognize that their fight and flight responses are actually what is causing the distance between the two of them, right? When something happens, instead of discussing it, they're just kind of responding or reacting. And then when that happens, you know, you're not going to win. Like, you know, Chad, the way he shuts down, he shut it down 2 conversations like that. The way that Belinda also as well too is just immediately runs to "you're a liar," rather than, you know what I mean, like saying there's a different opinion. Like she ran because for her also, I think her trauma is betrayal. So she's looking for any sign of betrayal. She's sniffing for it. If it smells like betrayal, walks like betrayal, looks like betrayal, I'm gonna call it out. You know. Yeah. And so I think she's always ready to fly as well. So that makes it difficult as well, some of the communication aspects. Any last thoughts on Chad and Belinda?
Yeah. I don't like the fact that I think it was this episode, beginning of this episode. I'm big on running to your apartments, right? Everybody wants to run to their apartment. Yeah. Everybody wants to run to their apartment, man, and leave. To me, I think that's not real marriage, right?
That's true.
That's not real marriage, right? I can't run to my apartment. Sometimes we can go to different rooms for a minute, but I gotta sit there and we gotta deal with this issue. Now, maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, but you can't just run off, right? I mean, I think go back to your point with them both are runners, because he did it, then she went to her apartment. I'm going home.
Yep.
So when you have 2 track stars, you're never getting anything resolved because you're always running and you never have that conflict resolution in their relationship has to get better. I think it can work, but they both have to be willing to open and let the walls down and let healing begin and understand how to handle conflict.
Yeah, 100%. You nailed it on that. And I even forgot about the house. They were both running to their houses, boy. And I was like, what's going on here? And you're right. That's what I thought. I did think about it. I was like, this is not a marriage to, you know, that you just guys run to your separate houses, which tells us that, again, both people are unwilling to kind of stay in the heat. And actually, you're training yourself actually to create distance and separation. And of course, arguments cause separation, but you're training yourself to be separated. And very soon, it won't be a night. It'll be 2 nights. It'll be 3 nights. It'll be 4 nights. It'll be a week. It'll be a month. It'll be, actually, why do we need to even be in a marriage? We're just going to live 2 separate lives. Like, eventually, you're going to create so much distance. This relationship doesn't work. And you're absolutely right. When I saw that, I was like, the fact that you guys have an option to run to your houses and you took it, kind of shows again that they need to be able to stand the heat and be able to stay in the fire and be recognizing that, look, arguments don't mean the end of the world. They don't mean the end of the relationship. We have arguments. We're supposed to work through them. So
yes,
you're definitely 100% right on that as well. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Let's move to the next couple. Obviously, Chad and Rhonda and Pat. Situation. You know, I think was also another interesting couple, and they had some interesting conversations in the last 2 episodes. So let me just show you a little something. Okay, and then I'll discuss it.
Working on coming together, building that friendship and trust, and like be your authentic self all the time.
I don't know. It's a very complex question that I don't have an answer for, you know, but I want to get there.
Okay. Pat and Rhonda, what are we talking about? How are we feeling about Pat and Rhonda, man? Glenn, how are we feeling about Pat and Rhonda?
She is treating him like he's a child and not a 59-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? He is a 59-year-old man. To the point, even when she is having conversations with him, I thought about this, and I think I shared this with Jack when we was talking about it. What if Pat is not, he has a focus issue because he's getting older in age, that he's not trying to not hear everything you say, but because of age and things that are creeping in, it may be affecting his mind. He can't remember everything, right? Key points. He can understand key points, key things. He's trying. You can see he's focused with her when she's talking. He's looking at her. He's trying to think of what he needs to say next. I think sometimes she needs to chill, and because we always see her saying to Pat, "You're not listening," but how much does she really know about Pat? How much has she really embraced about what can she regurgitate about Pat issues? Because when Pat was talking about a couple episodes ago, him living in Hawaii and him growing up, I didn't see the 50 million questions giving back to him that she wants him to give to her. I didn't see the intrigue or her being deep dive into it. I think Rhonda has to understand that there is much more. She wants to be self-served and self-centered. She wanted to be all about her when she tells a story. But I mean, your husband wants the same thing. And I like the fact that he pulled over a couple episodes and like, hold on for a minute. I can't do both. And she has to understand with him and continue to work with him. Because this guy is a, you can see that he's trying to do what's right. He just ain't getting there. And she's not giving him the affirmation he may need or the kudos that he may need. All we see, again, is her putting him down. Never say, hey, you know what, Pat, I appreciate you listening to me today. Pat, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Pat, I appreciate the fact that, you know, you heard me today. Like, where's the affirmation or the congratulations when he does hear you and he does share with you? It just can't always be negative all the time, because if a man is telling you that he feel like he's being scolded, you're beating him up, and he's 1 foot out the door, right? He's 1 foot out the door, and he doesn't want to hear you say anything. So that's one of the things. Even when the friend was there, it's like you thought, and for a minute there, I'm like, do you want to go be with the friend? Because she was like, he you know, I've been with Pat 18 weeks, and this guy been over here, he got it in 2 minutes. You know, so she's like, he has to be more attentive. So yeah, she needs some help. She needs a lot of therapy in this situation with Pat, and it can't be one-sided. It can't be one-sided.
Definitely hear you on that. Precious, welcome.
Hello. I think with Rhonda, she's very intense. She's just a very intense person, and I think she's looked at Pat, and she's sort of assumed that he's not as layered as her, or has not been through as much as her. And I think as a result, she almost dismisses his experience a lot and dismisses what he has to bring to the table in way of what he wants to talk about, answers to the questions that she should be giving. Like, even when we saw him watch the space mission with her, she was quite like, I don't understand why he likes this, but we'll go through it anyway because, you know, just to do it for him. But again, there was a couple of questions, but it wasn't like she was really trying to unpack his history with him in the way that she wants him to unpack it with her. And as I said last week, I think that Rhonda wants a therapist. She doesn't want a partner. Or at least that's what she needs. I think she needs a therapist, not a partner right now. I think when you haven't been in a relationship in a while and you have all of this stuff that you've got within you, and I think maybe Rhonda might have picked up some therapist words along the way, but doesn't have anyone to really share that with. It basically like gets vomited out with the next partner that you get into a relationship with. And there's no sort of balancing that happens because you're just regurgitating everything that you haven't really been able to tell anyone else. Because I think, the difference between a friend and a partner is that friends can kind of check in and check out once they get fed up with how much you're talking about something. A partner doesn't have that luxury, especially a husband doesn't have that luxury. And I think she's utilizing that a lot. And I think because he's not giving that response that she wants, she's then getting frustrated and kind of rolling over it on him. And because Pat is so sort of laid back, and he's willing to say, yes, you're correct, I'm sorry, I'm going to try harder. That's just kind of giving her the leeway to continue going and to continue poking and prodding and poking and prodding. Yeah, I feel bad for Pat, but I also see where Pat can be a bit he causes some of it on himself, I think. Like, for example, at that music concert, she's crying and telling you about how this song encapsulates a really difficult time in her life. maybe you can give her a little bit of affirmation before you want to then start entering what you think about the song. And actually, maybe in that point in time, maybe what you think about the song isn't really that important, because what's happening right now is that she's having a very emotional response to that. You clearly don't have an emotional response. So actually, what you think in that moment doesn't matter. Lead with what is going on for her. And I think Pat isn't very great at those moments and hasn't had much experience with that, or is just doesn't see it. So I think he does cause some of it on himself. Um, but I do think his friend's response was like walking on eggshells, because when he confirmed what Rhonda was feeling, although he was partially correct, I think the way he just jumped to saying that was a stupid thing for you to do just felt very like hostile. And I'm thinking to myself, aren't you supposed to be Pat's man? Are you supposed to be his friend? Why? I was like, if you have friends like that, you do not lead enemies, because what's going on? Like, I was expecting him to defend Pat at least a little bit, because usually, men do kind of defend men. So I'm just like, what's going on? So it was very bizarre, but it got me thinking maybe this is a pattern that Pat has shown in the past with either friends or other partners, that have this friend feeling very much like, I see this. This is what I've seen before. Is Pat doing this again? So it's hard to tell which one's which, but yeah, I think I agree. There should have been some more neutrality in that conversation. And I think Pat kind of got railroaded a little bit in that conversation. I felt bad for him because I was like, oh God, there's no one on Pat's side. He's just there, just taking hits upon hits. So yeah, I don't see how they're gonna last if there isn't some give and take. And I think Rhonda might have to shift a little bit more, because I think she's much more the intense, a little bit overbearing figure in the relationship at the moment. I think Pat needs to assert a little bit more boundaries and a bit more dominance. And I think Rhonda needs to shift how she's communicating a little bit, and sort of maybe fall back a little bit and be more engaged, be more curious about Pat as well.
Yep, definitely hear that. I said a lot about them already, but Glenn, I don't know if you want to jump back in with Pat and Rhonda.
Yeah, well, what did you guys thought about that whole ticket situation? I thought that was weird when he bought the tickets to the concert and she scolded him for buying tickets. Like, you should have asked me first. Like, to me, like, dude was trying to do a good gesture. But you're asking like, oh, you need to ask me first before you buy tickets. And I'm sitting here like, man, like, yes, he could have brought it in conversation. By the way, I want to, but go back to Precious' point. He knows that you like concerts, you like music, right? And so he's buying tickets to maybe take you to a concert, take you to music and surprise you. But again, you never had that dialogue because she tried to control all the situations. She controlled all the conversation. And so allow him to be, at what point do you allow him to be your husband, or do you take control of everything? Right? They've never sat down and set any rules of engagement. How do we respond? How do we balance? How do I do you like surprises? Don't you like surprises? Can I buy tickets for you? Things of that nature. Some things that regular couples do. She wants total control. And I think Pat does have to set boundaries and have a footing in this relationship, and he just can't sit there and take it. That's why he said, I think he said it, this marriage process of what he's been through has been painful, and he has anxiety over it. It's been painful. He felt pressure because he's not allowing himself to speak. He's sitting there and sometimes taking what she's given. And we know pressure busts pipes. At a certain point, he has to be able to verbalize itself to Rhonda and say, you know what, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. When you're doing this, it makes me feel X, Y, Z. Can we come to a resolution on, you're not the only one that feel in this relationship. I feel as well. And I have issues and I have problems. And some of the causes is because of how you treat me. I think they need the experts to come in and have a solid meetup. And and I think they brought it too. Like he went to the family reunion. I mean, I'm sure he was forced to go to the family reunion. I don't know who wanted to go to the retreat, but he was forced to do that too. So in this relationship, you can see where Pat is conceding for things that Rhonda want to do, but she's not conceding for things that Pat wants to do.
Any other thoughts, Precious?
Yeah, I was thinking that of like, I'm sure Pat wanted to go to the retreat, but had to, go to this family reunion that he didn't know anything about until it came up. I guess it's difficult because obviously there's an argument to say, well, with the retreat, it's a bit odd for him to go to the retreat on his own. So, there's an argument there of like, well, if you're not going with your wife, how are you really going to go to a couples retreat without your wife? So there's an argument there. But again, I agree. I think it's a control aspect of, no Rhonda, not that I know her, but it's likely she didn't even like the music that was going on at this concert. So when she sees the ticket that was bought for this act that she don't like, he was like, now you're buying me this ticket, like getting, annoyed because it was probably an accident, like. And I think then what happens is the consideration and the appreciation for the thought behind the action goes out the window, and now you're just annoyed. um you know Especially as I think also she probably felt a bit salty the fact that this was something that he'd already planned with his mum, and he kind of just last minute bought her a ticket and was like, why don't you come? So I think again, I think it's very difficult. I don't know if it's because she's been in previous relationships where she might have felt controlled, or it's a situation where she feels that she needs to control, and so when it doesn't happen, she's like, well, you didn't even ask me. What if I can't go? What if I don't want to go? And maybe there's some anxiety around saying, oh, I don't want to go because his mum is going. So it's like almost now being afraid of how you might look by saying you don't want to go. So you're using this excuse of you didn't ask me as a way to circumvent having to go. So it could be a whole lot of things. But yeah, I think the reaction was a bit intense and it was unwarranted. Especially because it's something that happens all the time in marriages and relationships where somebody wants to surprise you and like, does something and maybe it clashes with something, or it might not necessarily be something that you like. But sometimes you have to swallow it and get over it and just do it and do it with a smile. So yeah, I think that was a little bit immature and a bit selfish from Rhonda in a way.
Appreciate that. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's talk. Obviously, Jalen and Joss on the last two episodes. There weren't really much. I wouldn't say it would have been much. There was much previous episodes, but obviously these 11 and 12, they were a little bit more quieter. They still had their moments, but they were a little bit more quieter. They seemed to be fading into obscurity. They worked out some of their issues. Burning Man is still an issue, of course. But I want to get your perspectives on
Want to hear it, so I just say yes by the end of this. No matter what happens on decision day, I want you to know that I think like you're such an incredible person, and like I think you're deserving of everything you want, and like, yeah.
I tell you something that I really want right now.
What?
I guess.
I don't know what it is yet, but I want to tell my unadulterated feelings about Jalen and Josh. Ever since the boat ride, I don't think she's that into him. I'm just gonna say it. It's my instinct. It is not anything I've per se can say that, oh my God, when I saw that, I knew that she. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm gonna say purely on instinct of what I saw. I had a twingly feeling in my brain somewhere. Okay. I don't know what it is. It's the way that sometimes it's the way that they both kind of hug and kiss, right? Sometimes it feels, I don't know. I don't really feel passion. I don't feel passion. I feel like she's settling for someone who seems to be sturdy and stable. And of course, she's not looking for his money. I want to be clear. She's not looking for his money, but he's stable. He's comfortable. You know, I mean, he was there when uncomfortable until he decided to start doing the X situation. But I don't feel passion. It's so weird. I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was the boat ride that told me. The boat ride when they were discussing and then they kissed. It felt like there was a gap between the two of them. And then every time I see them kind of kiss, it feels flat. You know, it feels like a Coca-Cola that's been out for too long and the lid's been open. And now when you go to drink it, it's just got a flat taste. That's how I see, you know, the feeling. And that's not to say that, you know, he's not a part of it too, but yeah, I feel more fear from them rather than actually I really love you. Rather than actually passion, I should say. I think they love each other, but I'm not seeing much passion. But again, that's my kind of, I guess, unpopular opinion about them too. Of course, I want to get your thoughts on this with Jalen and Josh. How do you see them on last week episodes? They're still talking about the running man situation. You know, how do we see Jalen and Josh on this episode as well? Precious, I'll let you go first. Talk to me.
To be fair, I've never thought that Jalen liked Josh from the jump. To be fair, I've been saying it from the jump. Because she was very kind of he's and at first I thought it was because of energy because he's very high energy and she can be a bit more laid back. But then I see her with the other girls when they're all like having fun talking. She's very animated, high energy. So I was like, okay. And then after they had sex the first time in the honeymoon, I saw her really just chill back in. Um, so I've always just thought that Josh likes her more than she likes him, a lot more. So and I thought that was probably just how they're gonna sort of keep going with it. But for her to be like, whatever happens on decision day, I think you're great. I'm like, oh God, girl, what does that mean? What do you mean, whatever happens? Like, that is a crazy statement to make when you both have been sitting here going, I love you, I love you. You both have been sitting here, you know, saying like, yeah, we're making progress on all the difficulties, we're talking it through. He clearly is invested, and you're going, whatever happens. I think those little Freudian slips are just showing me that this girl is really like, push come to shove, I'm gonna say yes for the show, and then by reunion we're done because it's a bit crazy. And I think her anxiety around Josh telling her what she wants to hear is also a little bit centered in the fact that I don't think she's been all the way honest completely about how she feels. And I think that's also working towards it as well. Even and you know, going back to what we were talking about last week about her saying, you know, if my marriage doesn't work, it's fine because at least my mum's marriage works. Also a crazy statement to say when you've been sitting here telling this man that you love him. And they were saying I love you very early on. So yeah, but for me personally, I've always been saying this girl don't like this guy. I don't think any of the girls on the show like any of the guys, if I'm being truthfully honest, really and truly. So I just think it's peaceful over there because Jalen is willing to chill and because Josh has been very acquiescing towards her. There hasn't been much that Josh has been like, I really want this, apart from Burning Man. And I think that's also partly why I think he went so hard for Burning Man, because I can imagine there's other things in this relationship that Josh is having to acquiesce, or maybe he doesn't care about. Um, but I think there's an element of him doing a lot to try and, you know, be loving of Jalen and be a husband for Jalen, but I don't know how much per se is being reciprocated. Um, so yeah, so they're an interesting pair. They're an interesting pair, especially because they settled into that whole old married for a long time vibe quite quickly. And that usually indicates a lack of passion when people settle into a rhythm quite quickly and into a sort of we were married for a long time with them. That tends to indicate a lack of passion. So um So yeah, and I don't know if that's just because it maybe after they became intimate, it became a bit off kilter. I'm not sure. But yeah, but we'll find out. We'll see. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Jalen is really that into Josh, to be honest.
I mean, I can see your point. I can see both of your guys' point where I don't think she's into him. I think she started to lose. She was really into him at first. I think when he started to go into this Burning Man situation, and she realized that she didn't like it, she started to realize that a lot of the things that she liked, he doesn't like, and I think she realized they're not compatible in that sense. I think they did hop into the bed early. Sex was on the table real quick with both of them, right? They was both willing to. I think they joined the Mile High Club, I believe, or part of the Mile High Club when they got there. But then she started to get turned off about him by some of the things because he can be pushy, right? Go back to the boat situation. She didn't want to do something. He forced her to. He pushed her to do that, to jump off the boat and to be involved, and she did it because it's her husband. Skydiving was something on her list, but he pushed her to do that as well. And I think it became less. She became less attractive to him, even more so when the lie came up about the social media, the ex on social media. So and he's not more involved in her cycling. When the conversation about Burning Man again came up, and he told, well, why don't you take cycling off the table? What if I was doing that? But I also think that she is not willing to compromise for anything that he wants to do. Like, I always thought the Burning Man situation is very simple to fix. Hey, I want to stay 7 days. Can you stay at least 1 day with me or 2? And then you can go home and I'll stay the rest. This is something that I like to do. It's something that I enjoy doing. Can you just share with me just a little bit? Not long. Let me give you a taste of it, right? For her not to be willing to even try, to me, is a red flag, right? For you not even trying to be part of the festival or really know why he goes. He's trying to share something with you, right? You took him to your cycling class. He met all your friends, all your clients. He even did the cycling with you. You're not willing to compromise and go to Burning Man with him, at least for a day or two. Is a week-long event, and he's not willing to not knowing how to articulate how to say that to her. And like I said, it has to be a compromise in their relationship. She's not willing to compromise. You see some of the emotion that he has, but it has to be compromised. There's some things that you're not always going to like what your spouse like or what your partner like, but we can both share something together. You know, I'm a huge, I think I see it on our channel, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm a big pro wrestling fan. I mean, big pro wrestling fan. Anytime they're within a good vicinity, I'm going to wrestling events. If WrestleMania is somewhere in distant, I'm going. And so, but to be able to bring Jackie into that was something different. But that's where you learn over time. Okay, cool. Let's enjoy things together. What else do they do together? Even for her to say what you say on decision day, that's a whole different tone for her, right? Because a couple of weeks earlier, I think at the retreat or the anniversary dinner, she was like, yes, my man. We're going to say yes on decision day. Now for her to say, even at this dinner, to say whatever you're going to say at decision day means that she's not sure. She's not 100% sure because they've been arguing or going back and forth a lot lately. Her confidence has slipped in their relationship, and she may not want to say it. Her confidence may have slipped in him because he's been too pushy in some areas. I think about this. Even I think it shifted too when he didn't want to write the letter. When he didn't want to write the little note or whatever, the love letter that he wanted to push. And it took him so long to write and to share his feelings and to share his emotions. And she was like, oh, you don't really love me? It's like, okay, it's good. She put that mental note in her head. You can't even write a small thing for me? Okay, this might not be the person I want to deal with or be with. So to put all those into perspective, I think her love might be slipping for him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think they're both a bit rigid, you know, in terms of doing things for each other. It's interesting as well, because once he decided to put his foot down about the letter situation, I was like, boy, if you don't go and write that letter, bro, and come back and present the note, you know, but I get it. He was feeling some type of way, but he, you know, I wanted to see him push through that moment and be like, you know what, maybe I'm a little bit scared right now, or maybe you want give me 10 minutes. Let me just go and set my own and do it. You know, he didn't do that. But like I said, I agreed with you. I said the same thing about the Burning Man situation. I don't think she's been all the way honest, baby girl. If it goes against your spiritual beliefs, say so.
Right.
But otherwise, go for a day and come home. Like this whole chat about, oh, why does she have to go, bro? Listen, it's not even about have to go. When someone says this is something that's huge in their life, huge, it's a massive thing for him. Compromise. All it is, hey, I can't do 7 days. I tell you what, I can do a day. I'm gonna do a day. I might even come before the sun sets, and I come home, and you fill the rest of the 6 days. You know what I mean? Like on that aspect. And I think also he's not being honest. Burning Man is huge for him. And I need him to stop pretending as if it's not huge for him, because now he's doing this whole thing of like, you know what? It won't be the same if you're not there. She wasn't there in the first place. So
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about. Do you know what I mean? Like, man's acting like she was there with him every week. No, she was never there, bro. So why would it be any different? So again, I don't think he's also telling the truth. And I think this is a tale of two people who are unwilling to tell the truth about how they really feel about scenarios and situations in their relationship. And, you know, I feel like once they finally rip off that Band-Aid and really have some real conversations, then the real relationship begins from both ends. And, you know, I do feel like, you know, that, you know, with them two, I think they play niceties, man. They play niceties, and they're, you know, I feel like they, I feel like they play niceties. I feel like they pretend a lot. I feel like they're not being honest about what they really think and feel. When they had a conversation with Dr. PR, she was doing the exact same thing still. She was not telling the full truth about how she felt about it. He too wasn't telling the full truth about how he felt about it. And it's like, this has been a highlight of their relationship, where they don't tell the truths about events that are affecting them, which means they can't get their full emotions and their full thoughts, which means reactions and fights are actually delayed. So they're going to come. It's going to come on the back end of stuff. And by that time that comes, it might hit them all in one go, and they may not survive it, because they're like, why are we having so many arguments back to back to back to back? And it's because people are not being honest, and they're sweeping things underneath the rug. So yeah, for me, it's just a case of like, I get it, you know, but the way he's talking, Burning Man is huge. This is not some little hobby. This sounds like a massive thing for you. And if that's the case, do 1 day with him, and then you come home. You say, you know, listen, babe, it's not for me, but you know what? I support you in it. I go for 1 day, and I come back, and I leave it alone. Do you know what I'm saying to you? But yeah.
Can I just say though, I think with this whole Burning Man conversation, I feel like I understand the nucleus of it, and I understand the message behind it. I also think we have to take into consideration that from what we've seen of Josh and how important this is for him, there's a lot of pressure, one, for her going to Burning Man, because he's going to be hyper vigilant of how able she is to get involved with the actual like event. And it can't just be, oh, you're just going to go there for 1 day and say, okay, I'm going to leave, because that just doesn't happen at Burning Man, and that will cause even more of an issue. She only goes for 1 day, goes, oh, I can't handle it, and then goes. That's even more. That's going to cause an even bigger issue between them than if she just doesn't go. So unless she's willing to go to Burning Man and stay the entire time, if she decides to leave early, he's always going to say, yeah, but you didn't stay the entire time. It got better. You know, just give it a go. Just try longer. Like, so it's always going to be a thing, because yes, I agree, it's very important for him. And I think again, when we try to compare it to the spin class, again, I feel like that's a difficult thing, because you're talking about a 45-minute spin class versus 7 days in the desert for Burning Man. It's just not the same. Like, for example, when Glenn was talking about, you know, being a fan of pro wrestling and getting Jackie involved, like, that is like, pro wrestling is okay. I'm biased. I like pro wrestling. I've always been a fan of pro wrestling. I'm a WWE girl, so I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know what issue is that with. I'm like, how's that an issue? But I also know that there's people who don't like wrestling. Again, wrestling is a very get in, experience it, and leave situation. It's not a, go to the other side of the country for a week and then try and try and handle being around wrestling for a week and then going back. It's just not the same. So I agree. I think there should be some compromisation there, but also I get why she ain't trying to compromise to Burning Man because it's intense. It's a lot, especially when you're considering that they've only been married for like a month, 2 months. That's an intense thing to commit to for someone that you're still trying to figure out. But and also to say, because I know somebody in the chat was saying that I called Josh illiterate. I didn't call him illiterate. I said he might have issues, like he might have some neurodivergence there, where having to write something on the spot becomes very difficult, and the executive functioning becomes very difficult when you're under pressure. Because if he's taking 4 days to write 4 paragraphs, there's some executive functioning going on there. So um, I think in that situation, I don't think Jalen was upset about the fact that he couldn't write it because he did write something. I think she was upset by the fact that he bought like just full out refused to read what he wrote and then shut down and they became defensive. I think that's what was upsetting, not because he didn't write anything, because he actually did write something, but he just refused to read it. He shut down and became defensive about it, and she was like, "Whoa, it's not that deep." So I think that's what it was upsetting. But I don't think she took it as like a personal thing of like he doesn't love me. I think it was just a very intense reaction to have for something that felt quite um normal for her or simple for her. Or she was like, "You don't have to do that much, only a little bit, and it's fine." Um, but again, I think there's something there outside of it just being like if he's struggling that much, there's something there, and it might just be something that hasn't been explored, so it's hard to understand on both sides. But that was just that was just my thinking there.
And my thinking on the letter was that he probably chat GPT'd it in the first place, and he did not know what to write, to her. I thought about that. I also thought maybe he can't read and write. I really did. Maybe he has cameras and things of that nature. Would make him a little skittish about writing, and he can't live up to the expectation because the wedding vow is so high. I don't want to slink down to my lower level and write something that I can't in comparison to what I wrote or got somebody else to write or that got some help with in the first place. That's all those type things. With the Burning Man, that could be a conversation they need to have though, because I think even though that's going to be an issue, because it's a deep spiritual event for him, right? It's a big gathering for him. And I think she's never gave him clarity on why not, and or even suggestions on how they can move up, progress to 7 days, right? Because she's talking about festivals in Burning Man. Like I don't do festival. Like, can we do a 1 day fest? Because Austin has a lot of festivals, right? There's a lot of things that go on in Austin. Like, can we do a 1 day concert? Or can you ease me into it? Can you show me a video? Are there other women that's going to be there? Like, give me the whole picture of what this is. And will you? I don't want to use the word allow. Is it okay with you if I go for a day or two? So he's not disappointed. He's not upset if she doesn't stay the whole 7 days, because it's already written in stone. When we went out here, it was already set how long I was going to stay. It was already set how long we were going to be here. So when it's time for me to go, you go ahead and enjoy. You can't be upset because we agreed to this before we even went out the house. So those type conversations, relationships, I think needs to take place and happen. Those rules and those guidelines. Hey, I'm going to stay XYZ. We talk about again, I'm used for wrestling, right? Jack knows when I go, all my boys, we go to wrestling. There's certain events that in wrestling, she's like, I'm not doing access all day long. I'm not running from WWE to Ring of Honor to AEW to TNA. I'm not doing 5 shows in a weekend. Now I do this one, but I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go to this as a family, and I'll meet up with so-and-so at so-and-so, and then we'll do the rest of the wrestlers. So there's that compromise and that conversation that happens prior to the event. And I think that's what Jalen and Josh have to do, to set down the guidelines and the parameters of how things will work out and compromise. When people say you can't compare the the spin class to the Burning Man. No, not in the length of time, but in the event itself, because it's both things that we like to do. And so I'll share with you, you share with me. If I disagree with spin class, because he could have passed out in spin class. He may not be a cyclist, right? But he was willing to sweat and take all that blunt on for her. So at least give me some type of reprieve in this relationship with that. So
Yeah, I feel like there should have been a compromise. I guess, you know, I just think Burning Man is just a lot more intense
it
than a
is.
spin class. It just is. Even your day is more intense. Um, and I guess also when we see the pattern of behavior from Josh, he's very pushy.
Yes.
So you might agree on just going 1 day, 2 day, but then when it gets to day 2 and time comes up and I'm about to leave, and you're like, oh, but why don't you just say 1 more day? Just give it 1 more day.
Good point. Good
History
point.
has shown that Jalen gives in, and I think part of her is upset that she gives in because she's probably like, because this man made her skydive, he made her jump from a boat. Jalen is tired, guys. She
Yeah.
is tired. So that's the only thing. And I think, you know, I feel like if she felt that Josh would be okay with her going for a short amount of time and he wouldn't try and push her to go more, I think she'd actually be more inclined to compromise. I think part of her feels a little bit unsafe with Josh because he's so pushy and because he's so like, you know, do it, do it, do it, do it. I think she's now starting to feel a bit unsafe because I think, yes, she asked for somebody who's willing to push her, but part of being willing to push somebody is also understanding their limits and knowing when to do it and knowing when to step off the gas and put you know, press down on the gas a bit more. So I think Josh went so full on during the honeymoon, during the, you know, the first bits. I think now she's a bit trigger happy. She's a bit trigger shy. And so now when he's like really trying to push something, I think she's starting to retreat and close up and think, because you have to remember, like when they were talking about it with the experts, that she was mentioning boundaries a lot. She mentioned
Right.
boundaries a lot. And I think that's what this is about, is I think she feels a bit unsafe. Not in like a, oh, he's gonna hurt me way, but just in like a, my boundaries, I'm not able to keep my boundaries as much as I would want to in this because you're being so pushy, you know, at times. So I think that's also part of her thought process as well.
Great thoughts. Okay, cool. Well, let's go to Megan and Derek. Their situation. Let's play a little clip for them. Okay, old girl says she don't mind being a single mother if it comes down to it. That's right. She ain't gonna be trapped in no marriage.
I think for sure the husband life is really like hitting me pretty hard right now.
Okay, so Megan and Derek, they had a conversation with the parents, and also, you know, they have some conversation within themselves. They're talking about actually being parents or being, I guess, her being pregnant, and you know, he's very happy. It's a bit soon, but hey, they're here. You know, they're here. So, love your thoughts on, you know, this Megan and Derek situation. How did you see Megan and Derek in the last 2 episodes? What did you witness from them two? I'm gonna let Glenn go first this time. Glenn, what did you think about them two?
I think they're scared. I mean, he's excited. I think she's still scared about this child situation. It's like, you know, she's happy because it's him, or she's pregnant, but it's like, oops, like what did we do, right? Even when the 3 kids came over, she was tired. She doesn't know what to expect. I think that is their one of the catalysts. I hope. And she said, like, she's pregnant and she's about to have a baby. And well, anything can happen, but she's about to have a baby. But if they're not connected together, this is wild, right? I think it's very wild for her to be, for them to be pregnant on the show. Like, there's no one, especially when you have a decision day to worry about, right? Like, you don't even know if you're going to be with this person. You don't even know if y'all can last the whole 8 weeks, you know, or the 2 months together. This is crazy. But I see them, if they're willing to work it, it can work. But I'm not sure if she can put in the work, because she's been, from what we've seen, she's been spoiled majority of her life. that mom is taking care of her, dad is taking care of her. She works for the family company. She does all the things. Like, what has she really done where the family has not supported her? Mom is too much involved, right? Her mom is really involved. Mom wishing kids on them before they even got back out the honeymoon. I want y'all to have kids and that. So I think Derek and Megan have to learn how to, because let's be honest, just because she got pregnant, it has not fixed the situations that she goes from 0 to 60 real quick, right? To me, this is just covering up some of the issues that she's already presented, because he was already walking on eggshells and bending over backwards for her anyway, prior to the pregnancy. So now he's definitely gonna be walking on eggshells. Oh, he's gonna be trying to cater her every need. But what happens when he doesn't meet that need? What happens if he falls short? What happens if her hormones become unbalanced, and he does something that she doesn't like? Hear this. What happens if something happens to the dog? Because that dog is her lifeline, right? Now she's bringing a child into it. So, things of that nature could happen to it. It is always because think about it. Prior to her saying she was pregnant, Derek felt kind of unsafe with her. Derek was getting ready to bounce. Like, he was like, "Hold on, what can I do?" So now she has a baby, and it's like she's pregnant. It fixes everything. It does not fix everything. It just covers everything for this moment in the season, and they still have some things they have to discuss and have to fix. So for her to even say that I can raise this baby without you is like, hey, what we doing here? Like, this is what you thinking? We're heading into decision day. You with child, and you talking about I can do this without you. Do we really love each other? Are we really in this thing? If I'm him, I'm thinking, hold on for a minute. What if she does leave with a child? Like, now I went from being a single bachelor, right? Traveling around the world doing what I want. And Shorty's like, I'm taking this kid and you ain't seeing it's mine. Because I don't know about y'all. I can see her mother pulling that. I can see her mom pulling that. I can see her family pulling that. And I can say, you know what? She said, you know what? I'm going to have a baby. And I want you to stay out that way because I don't need your money. I don't need nothing else. I got the house. I got my own stuff. And I don't need you. I'm going to take care of this my own. That's what I read when she started saying that stuff. That's where my mind went. Like, bro, she might be giving you a hint that it's cool that I'm pregnant and I probably had this baby. But if you bump your head wrong and I get mad with you, you ain't going to see this no more. Because I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bounce, and I got enough means to take care of anything that I need to take care of. Just my thought, my opinion. Y'all can agree, but that's what came to my mind when she was talking. When she started talking, as they say, she started talking slow. She started talking real slow. So I don't know if she really she's really into Derek, or she really the fact that she's having a baby, or is she scared of both? Because I think she's scared of both. She's scared of Derek a little bit being in a relationship, and this baby being a mother scares her, because even when she talks about her mom, she's like, my mom can't help me being a mom. So who's gonna help her when she feels like she can't be a mom? So
I don't know why Coach is looking at me like that. So I saw that conversation between Megan and Derek a little bit differently, because the reason I say that is, so you have to remember what Derek said before she said what she said. And Derek was like, oh, we basically have to say yes now because of this baby. And I think in that moment, because you have to remember she's showing a pattern that when she becomes anxious, she avoids and she steps back. And I think Derek saying that made her think like, oh, so basically you're just here because I'm pregnant, not because you actually want to be with me. And we saw how she reacted when she said I love you and he didn't say I love you back. She basically retreated until he's like, I love you too. So I think, you know, when she feels like anxious or she feels like there's some form of like rejection happening, she tends to step back, distance, and isolate. And I think she was in that moment basically saying, hey, look, you don't have to be here if you actually don't want to be here. If you're just trying to stay here for this baby, you know, I want you to be here because you want to be here. The baby is sort of inconsequential as a result, in a way. Because, you know, she did say, you know, we can co-parent without being together. So obviously, you know, women change their minds, things happen, you know, as things go on. But I also feel like she's 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 always said, you know, Derek makes her feel safe. Um, I feel like she actually deep down does like Derek. I think she's been single for so long and she's quite antisocial. I don't think she's introverted. I think she's a bit antisocial. And I think Derek coming into her space, and you know, Derek is very gentle, he's very kind, he's very understanding, he's very sort of workable. And I think she's not used to that because you have to also consider her mum. Her mum is very critical, very intense. Um, And even when you said, Glenn, about her being spoiled, I actually don't think she has been spoiled. I think her mum has been very intense, very critical. Hence why she went and did a whole became a whole real estate agent because she was trying to get away from her mum. And she realized that it's so much work. This girl is trying to run away from this mother. So I think she's been so used to being in such a highly critical, intense environment. That's why she comes across as so avoidant because she's had to be. She's had to be stoic. She's had to be somewhat shut down because her mum is just so intense and her dad is so nonchalant and aloof sometimes. Like he seems also quite laid back. That juxtaposition means that you kind of have to learn how to be quite stoic and not show much. And I think that's come up in her behavior, in her sort of interactions with Derek, because I think Derek actually reminds her a lot of her dad. I think Derek behaves quite similar to her dad, and she's sort of now falling into her mum role of being very sort of intense, very 0 to 100 really quick. So, um, you know, I think there is a lot of fear. I agree. I think there's a lot of fear that, you know, this pregnancy came out of nowhere. Um, I think that even without the pregnancy, I think Megan would have had some doubts, but I think she still would have said yes on decision day. I think Derek probably would have said no. Um, so that's, and I think she probably has some form of inkling that that was probably how things would have gone without this baby. So I think that also adds to some of her response as well. But yeah, I mean, I hope for their sake they're able to make it figure it out because now a child is involved. um, which I still cannot wrap my head around because that is such a wild thing. It's always been something that I've always thought is a risk, but you almost think to yourself, these are grown adults. They must, you know, they must understand. Yeah, get on birth control because we ain't trying to do that. So for her to get pregnant at this time in the state of Texas is crazy. So, you know, it's a whole thing. But yeah, but you know, I wish them the best because the child is involved, and I hope they can figure out and they can make it work. Because I do see some potential in them. I think if they can figure it out, they actually could work. Um, but yeah, we'll see.
I mean, I agree with Glenn. I think Derek needs to watch out. This family, i.e., the mum, is likely to start warfare. Um, this child can easily become a source of conflict as well as power and control. The mom's already a controlling person. So, and Megan, and what we didn't discuss the whole entire time was Megan not putting effective boundaries in place with her mom. We didn't discuss that, right? The whole season, 12 episodes, we haven't discussed the fact that Megan needs to put effective boundaries between herself and her mum oversteps boundaries in that space. Did they discuss it?
I mentioned that. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no,
I
no,
did.
not you. I mean, the
Oh, you
show.
mean? Oh yeah,
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 yeah. Okay, they didn't
yeah.
bring
No,
up
no,
it.
no, no. Sorry, not you. The show hasn't mentioned it. So they've done 12 weeks, and we ain't seen that yet. I think number two also, and it's always tough, and I find in-laws for people tough because I know that people have such strong attachments. I don't. So my thing is like when I see things like the mom doing the most, yeah, my natural affinity is to tell my partner, I need you to regulate it before I regulate it. Because if I regulate it, it's going to come across rude. I don't want to have to do that. So I need you to regulate it. If you're not confident doing it, I can regulate it, but just know that it might not look pretty because we're starting a position where we're saying, listen, I appreciate your love and I appreciate your care. I want you to know that once it's me and your daughter, it's me and your daughter. I know you love your daughter and you're going to probably tell me it's your business. It is your business. But I want you to know that that marriage is not your business. The marriage is not your business. The marriage is between myself and your daughter. And you're overstepping boundaries when you're talking to me in a particular way, when you're asking certain questions in a particular way, the way that you intervene, that's a problem for me. Right? Now that's going to look unpretty. And that's what I'm saying about this on Megan needs to set those boundaries. But again, Derek hasn't even had a chance to talk about that because he's been getting battered by the very person in the actual relationship emotionally. You know what I mean? Like, so he ain't even had that chance. You know, I'm gonna say this again. Like, I think with this pregnancy issue, Derek needs to be very careful because it can easily turn into a power play for Megan and mom. Whether one thing about people like Megan who have a mother like her is that Megan will be against her mother all day until her heart's on the line. And when mother comes to back her up, it's now mother and Megan, right? And before you know it, mother and Megan have teamed up because you're the common enemy, right? And so now you'll find that Megan even takes more traits of the mother, and I'm afraid for him because the focus was so much on Derek, and I actually felt like some of his sternness needed to happen. I actually like they told him to tone it down. I was like, they need to turn it up because he needs some of that sternness because you can't be moving the way you're moving and not be held accountable as to how serious you were moving. This is not a case of like we having arguments, we both do some dumbass stuff. This is stuff where you're talking reckless, moving reckless, and you know it's getting a bit manipulative. Yeah, we need a stern tone. I know your daddy didn't do it because your daddy is chasing after your mama, right? And so what she's doing is setting Derek up, and the show's allowed it, but Derek also needs to stand up for himself. It's to set up a same dynamic between the mom and the dad. That's why we don't hear the dad talk often. There's always a mom. And so yeah, for me, it's like we're about to repeat the same patterns the parents brought in. So yeah, I'm waiting to see. You know, I'm intrigued to see how it's gonna play out. But for me, yeah, I saw that and I was like, Derek, bro, you messed up. You messed up. You see this girl's going crazy, but you got confused by the crazy pom pom, and bro, it took you out. The poussoir took you out. You got confused by the crazy poussoir, and now look where we at. It's tight, you know. So, yeah. But any other thoughts on these two? Yes, Glenn.
Yeah, I think what you said, which is key, man. Because if this ends in a divorce, it's gonna be messy.
Mm-hmm.
If this ends in a divorce, it's going to be messy. I mean, messy to the point because this is how it mess. Dude is not from Austin. Remember, he's just been in Austin a few weeks. So if they're divorced, what if he wants to go back home? She has the baby. What's visitation look like? What does if child support will look like, right? These business acumens, because once you start saying divorce, it becomes a business deal at this point. And now when you throw a child into it, it really gets messy. So just those type of things where people have to be thinking constantly about, is this something I want to do? And again, I think you said it, or Precious said it, like, how reckless are you? Like, married first sight, giving condoms, y'all ain't protecting yourselves, none of this stuff, and you gonna end up pregnant? Like, this is real, this is reckless behavior. I know he's your husband, but you ain't even say, you still got a decision to make. What if did y'all have any discuss? And that's why I want to see the experts come in. Like, have they? You the experts. Let's have this conversation with them about, hey, what happens if it does not go right? What happens if y'all don't like each other, love each other? You know, it's almost like Derek shot at the club on purpose. You know, like he shot at the club on purpose because he wanted like, this is the one for him. He wanted kids, right? He wanted 3. So he shot the club. Because she didn't. Because I said that too because she didn't seem distraught, right? If she didn't want the child, or if this was like, oh, she don't seem distraught about having kids with Derek. She's like, she's ready to get along with this. So, was it intentional? Were they really trying? Right? Those are questions. Those a couple questions I got. Were y'all like, were you really trying to shoot at the club, and she really let you, to do that? So it seems intentional to me. Just wanted to put that out there.
Definitely hear you on that, Glenn. I think both of them probably planned it. So, for various reasons. But yeah, I definitely hear you on that aspect as well. Okay, let's move to the next couple then. Let's go to yeah. Okay, well, it's the last one. It's Will and Brittany. Okay, so Will said he's sick of her ish. Okay, and said he gonna be saying no at the very end.
I'm not gonna lose my shit. Okay. I'm not gonna lose shit. Take a deep breath. Of course, there's a camera. I think I'm gonna lose my shit. Okay, let's go. Right now. No, Will just told me he's gonna tell me no. So.
He said no. Will said no. I can't say I'm not sad. I'm not happy about that. But I mean, how did you guys see it? What did you guys glean from Brittany and Will? Like they said no at the end, but last 2 episodes have been a bit interesting. What were we saying? Pressures?
I think it's a very tricky thing, right? Because yes, I think him telling her what his decision was going to be before the actual decision day was good thinking. However, you doing it a few hours before decision day is wild. You should have done this last night. You should have done this like, an hour or 2 after you left the house. Like, it's crazy. While she's doing her makeup to come to decision day, you give the call and say, yeah, I'm going to say no. Crazy business. Now, I think, right, that knowing this show, the fact that they showed him saying no indicates to me that his no isn't actually going to be what ends up being said on decision day. Because why would you spoil it if that was going to happen? So it indicates to me that somehow, something's going to go on that he probably is going to end up saying yes to this girl on decision day. Because why would you spoil it? But that was a very unhinged thing to do, is to call her up as she's doing her makeup a couple hours away from coming to decision day and say, yeah, by the way, it's gonna be a no from me. That's crazy. That is unhinged. And I think it goes to show some of what we've been saying about Will is that it's either he doesn't care or he doesn't fully understand how sometimes his decision processes and decision making comes across to Brittany. That's not to say that Brittany isn't filled with a lot of insecurity, but I also feel like what he does triggers her. Things like this is triggering. It's a very triggering thing to do. Um, and I understand he doesn't want to be there, and he, you know, he has every right to say no. And I think actually that's a good decision for him to say no. But again, it just becomes very like, why in this way? What is what was your thought process behind that? Um, so because even if you didn't want her to be shocked, you could have done this earlier to give her time to process this. You doing this at the very last hour, you know, at the last hour is crazy. And I think that just, yeah, it's, I don't know, it shows, it's just, it's beyond me. And I don't understand, and I just don't get it. I'm just so like, what are you doing? Um, but yeah, Britney's reaction is understandable. Um, I just hope, and I know she won't, but if it was me, I'd just be like, girl, you need to keep your cool. You need to keep it level-headed, and you just need to let it be. Because at this point, if you start blowing up, busting up, it's not gonna work out for you. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. As I said, I just feel as though you ain't showing that unless the decision that ends up being made is different. So we'll see. We'll see if my prediction comes right.
Will can't get no respect for telling her early.
No, he can. But you have to remember, Glenn, she was in the makeup chair getting her makeup done. That means that they were literally about maybe an hour, maybe 2, 3 hours away from decision day. That is late. That isn't, because you have to remember they have a night apart.
Right.
They have 24 hours apart. You could have called her last night and said, hey, look, I'm thinking of saying no. You saying it now, 3 hours, 2 hours before I have to get on and do decision day, it's not considerate. It shows that you literally right up to the last minute, you might as well just let it have been a no, because it wasn't like they ever had the conversation to say, yeah, it's going to be a yes.
Mhm.
She didn't leave that interaction with him thinking that it was going to be 100% yes. So you going up on decision day and telling her no you wouldn't have been seen as a bad guy, because it's not like they're Jalen and Josh where everything has been all hunky dory and all of a sudden now you're saying no. This relationship has been fraught with issues at every stage. So it doesn't surprise anyone if any of these two say no. So it's not like now you're trying to stop her from being surprised. She wouldn't be surprised because your relationship has been tumultuous.
Yeah, I think she's still been surprised. I think she's hanging on to a yes. She wants to love. She wants Will to like her. That's why, remember, she's the same one that asked him every day about decision day, right? She was asking every day about decision day. Are you gonna say yes today? Are you gonna say yes today? Are you gonna say yes? If today was decision day, would you say yes? So she wants that affirmation, and I can see him in that moment saying, "Yo, do I really want to go through this? Do I really want to be in this?" Now, could he have waited to the couch? Sure, but I think he doesn't want to. I won't say embarrass her on the couch, because I think sometimes they have a conversation. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna say yes on decision day," because the probably last thing he told her was, "I'm gonna say yes on decision day," and then to get to the couch and have the experts in front and everybody say, and then you say no. That's like gonna be a Maury Povich to find out that you're not the father. That's one of those type of situations where she's gonna really. That's more embarrassing. So me, I look at it like, hey, I'm gonna give you a heads up, and I'm saying I just hope if he said no, then stick to your no, because as you mentioned, in those couple hours, what made you change to a yes? If he switches, and if he changes, in those couple hours, what made you say yes? If your initial feeling was no, and so if he, just curiosity. So I hope if it's no is Will's answer, please stick to your no.
Yeah,
and be able to articulate, which he has a problem with, why you said no, and let her be able to know why you said no on that moment. And if he switches to a yes, please let us know why you switched to the yes. Those are the type of questions, that I would want from Will. Again, I don't think this relationship was built to last anyway, or it was put together for the last. I think she is, I don't want to say emotionally needy. There's a such thing as giving affirmation, right? And there's a such thing of having someone give you affirmation, but affirmation every moment of the second or the day, no. For him to be able to, and for him on his side, he has to be able to learn how to verbalize. But I take that for what his mom said, that he's a private person. But again, if you're a private person, you don't sign up for Married at First Sight. If you're a private person, you know what you're getting into, which is Married at First Sight. This is a TV show where millions and millions of people are going to be watching you. So they have to be, they both are high strung, but in different areas. Sometimes he's too logically thinking for his own good. Because to me, it's crazy that somebody has to tell you to go to the bathroom to check on your wife, and the conversation is going wrong, right? Everybody at this table are grown. Y'all know you should know when she's feeling bad or when she's upset, she's going to cry. That girl ain't going to the bathroom because she had to use the bathroom. She's going to the bathroom to boo-hoo. And so for them to have to tell you, and for him not to even double down, well, she's going to see it, but he even played it up like, oh yeah, I came to check on you. Bro was never going to say, they made me go check on you. So that right there shows you the empathy he has for her. He doesn't have it. It's not there. And then when he gets there, he said, girl, I want to be here with you. Do you really? Do you? Listen to what he said. He said in the bathroom, I want to be here with you. Really? Then you would have got up. You would have met. I shouldn't even have made it to the bathroom. Because when she got up, he should have been right there beside her. Hey, what's going on? Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Both of them should have went into the bathroom together. So he's not all the way in. I think she is in. But she has in her mind a type of relationship she wants. And Will can't give it to her. He can't give it to her. And if he can't give you that relationship that you desire or that you need, then he may not be for you. But she did the same things that she does in all relationships. She led with her body. She led with her body. And now she was mad at him. And she keep leading with her body. And she's going to have to learn that's not how you keep him. But I digress on there. That's what But my thing is, again, if Will said no, I need him to stick to his guns and be no.
Any other words there, Precious?
Yeah, I think as I said before, I don't have an issue with him being able to tell her in advance, I'm saying no. I just think he left it to the wire. And I think that's the issue I have, is that you left it right down to the wire. At that point, you might as well just waited until you got to the chair instead of doing it then. So that's my issue. And I think I agree. I think, as I said, with Will's inability to be direct in his answers caused a lot of confusion for her, which is where she has space to then start being insecure and anxious and overthinking his answers and reading into it. Because I'm so sorry, guys. I'm gonna be honest. Will speaks double Dutch 95% of the time. A simple question that requires a simple answer, man is given a paragraph, and that is for somebody who's quite anxious, as you can clearly see in Brittany. That becomes really, awkward, because you can almost pick up on the fact that he's being distant and that he's trying to intellectualize his emotions so he doesn't actually have to tell you how he feels. And I think that's what she picks up on. And because she is quite anxious, she overthinks it and overthinks it and overthinks it, before, and then it becomes a bigger thing. And because he's not trying to reassure her because he's tired of having to reassure her, it's a constant cycle that's happening. So they are both just triggering each other. Because I think he probably hasn't been with girls who need as much, who require as much, who seem to be as high maintenance as Brittany is. And I think she's used to men like that who are very sort of avoidant, aloof. And maybe in like the usual dating time, because you're chatting over messaging, you're building up a slow rapport, you're seeing each other weekly, you build up the connection, it lasts for about 3 months and then it's finished. But then in this kind of environment where you're stuck with each other and you skip past the talking stage, the dating stage, and you're having to really figure it out, it's even more intense and it becomes even more tricky to navigate. So we will see. I agree. I think if he's gonna say no, let it be a no. If he does change his mind, which I do think is gonna happen, it's gonna be very interesting to see how it does happen. And it's gonna be I'm really interested to see what Brittany's gonna say when she gets onto that chair,
I did
and
too.
then what she's gonna say to the experts as well.
I do too. I think they got that pursue withdrawal syndrome going on, where she's constantly pursuing, he's constantly withdrawing. She's constantly pursuing, he's constantly withdrawing. It becomes that cycle that they have, where she's always pursuing him. He never really pursues her, but then he'll withdraw from her when he doesn't like what she says, and then she's looking for answers, and he's not giving any answers or even kind of clarity, or can't even verbalize. Hey, can you give me a minute as I get my thoughts together? Because I don't want to say anything wrong. I want to be able to articulate to you exactly how I'm feeling. But what he does is he leaves her in the dark, and now when you leave a person in the dark who has what she has, or feel the way she feels, or the insecurity she has, now she comes up with her own things in her mind, comes with her own things in her heart. She starts to revert back to past issues or the past hurts and past things that people have done, and she creates her own narrative. And I think that's what Will has allowed her to do for so long, because he's been quiet and silent. He's allowed her to create her own narrative, and every time something happens, she keeps adding to that narrative, because Will is not giving her anything to change the narrative that she's already created. And that's the problem that Will is having, because he's not giving much at all to ease her mind, to make her feel comfortable. If she has to ask you every day about decision day, that means there's things that you're doing or not saying to make her worried. And it's not just on her, but it's on you as a husband who's pursuing her. Even though you guys are officially married, you still got to date her every day. You still got to pursue her every day. You still got to make her feel comfortable every day. You still got to affirm her every day, give her some affirmation and some love and some cherish her every day so she can feel comfortable. I think, only time you really saw her really feel good about Will is when he went on trips. And she was like, oh, I miss you. I want you to be back home. And then when he get back home, she was really ready to embrace him, to hug him and kiss him, because that separation had made her heart grow fonder of him. But did you really never saw him do that to her when he came home and really excited about being back home with her? So those are things that they definitely have to work on. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with Glenn. I think, he's just super avoidant. And I think he just doesn't want the responsibility of having to clarify any of the narratives that Brittany was making. He just don't like the girl. He just don't like her that much. And that's a simple fact. He just ain't that interested. And that's how what happens when somebody just isn't that into you. And he's already somebody who's quite avoidant. When an avoidant person is not that into you, this is how it looks. So yeah, fingers crossed in the future for them, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think obviously with them two, like, I think there's several things happening. I just didn't think he was into her in the beginning. I'll be honest with you, I don't think he was ever into her. I think he needs a bit more of somebody who's got a bit more intellect. No offense to her, I'm not saying she's not intellectual. She is obviously an intellect, but I think it's the way it's displayed. You know, some people when they talk from a very logical, intellectual position. I don't feel that from Brittany. What I get from Brittany is a lot of emotions, right? Which is also not a problem. It's not to say that she's bad. It's to say where she speaks from, right? Which is why they're both missing each other. He's very head, she's very heart. And so when you're hearing that, I think he wants someone that's a bit more head than heart. And I think she wants someone a bit more heart than head. And because neither of them are able to come to that mutual place, it's hard. And I think he's been unable to articulate those things, those truths, because sometimes when I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the way he looks at her, I'm like, he looking at her like she's dumb. Yeah. He looking at her like she's stupid. And it's because he doesn't see her as an intellectual equal. And I've been there before, so I know, especially if you're an avoidant, we have a lot of pride. A lot of our pride is in our intellect. We pride ourselves on being very smart individual people that have some level of whether it's street smart, whether it's intellectual smart, academical smart. We have some level of smartness, right? And so when someone else doesn't display, someone says cerebral might be a better word. When someone else doesn't display that particular same characteristics, it can make you seem like it can fly underneath the radar that they're not inferior. You can make you feel like, you know what, I'm not really getting anything out of this. You know, I feel like I'm not being challenged. I feel like I'm not being moved. I feel like I'm not really being, gaining the way I want to gain from, right? And I can only get close when I'm having those intellectual conversations. I think we said at the beginning of the season when the way he spoke to his boys was a clear indication of the way that he kind of thinks. He needs someone that's going to have an echelon of language as well, right? A certain type of eclectic vocabulary. And I don't see that with Brittany. She's a simple girl, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, like most people will be happy with Brittany. It's just him. I think that's one aspect. Again, I said it from the very beginning. When someone pulls back from sex, the way that he pulled back, that's the you know what that is? That is the regret of post-nut clarity. Okay, all right. That level of pullback, and of course, I said that with all jest and joke because they actually had sex after anyway. So clearly, we're having sex after, right? But I feel like there's a little I think he got a little Chris in him from Paige situation. You know what I mean? Like you still hidden, but sir, you ain't really feeling her like that. You know what I'm saying, Chew? And I felt that with him. I also felt like he was quite measured in a lot of his behaviors. And I say measured, calculated. Not to say manipulative, but to say it felt like a routine. I didn't really feel, again, it felt very mechanical. It felt very, okay, now this is what you got to do next. And this is what you got to do next. Okay, grab her, pull her in. Okay, yeah, talk to her. Very much felt like that. I didn't really feel a free-flowing, kind of passionate kind of plea from him. I didn't really feel that from him. But again, he's not the only problem I saw in his relationship. You know, I think Brittany, man, she wants constant reassuring, and it's not just constant reassuring. She tells him how he feels. It's irritating. It's absolutely irritating. Stop telling me how I feel. Let me feel how I feel. Stop trying to correct how I feel. Because then it feels like I can't actually ever be me. Because she did it on a boat as a great example. And what I said it from earlier in the season. I said the experts are failing her. They're failing her because they're not actually addressing his core deep round issues, and they're not actually allowing him to express why he feels the way he does. We didn't. We just kept on focusing on this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And we weren't underneath the deeper reasoning for why he did what he does. And that's why I felt like was doing her a disservice, because they were making it as if he's the only villain. And I'm like, bro, he ain't. Okay, he ain't. But you keep addressing it like that, you're going to make her think that she's not doing anything wrong. And she's just, she's not necessarily doing anything wrong, but she's doing too much. And also, I feel like she lacks emotional regulation. I feel like the way that she displays her emotion becomes fireworks. And because of those fireworks, not say she's like fiery, but more that it just goes pew 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 pew. And when it goes pew pew, once it goes pew pew pew, once it goes pew pew pew, once it goes boom. It's all, you know what I mean? It's just like you don't get a break almost. And it's exhausting, it's tiring, it's frustrating. So I do see how both of them could have made it through. I do see how they both could have tried to make it work. But I'm gonna be honest, it was never gonna work. The day that a man pulled back in the bedroom whilst he didn't clutch his pearls, but he had on pearls. I started questioning every reality after that, boy. You know what I mean? I started questioning. I have to start asking myself some real questions about this brother. But yeah, I think that was a big issue, and of course, he ended up saying no. So we'll see if he actually doubles back. I think he'll double back. I think he'll double dip. I think he will. I think he will dip again. But any other thoughts on Will and Brittany?
Yeah, you said, last thing you said was that he'll double dip. I guess I'm gonna ask Precious. She's the only female on this panel, and those in the chat. Hey, if you're Brittany, he told you no. Do you take his yes? Because he just broke your heart. You about to go. She about to blow a gasket. So what can this brother come back now to say and make you sit on that couch for you to say yes?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah, it's a question to you or other people in the chat, because he just broke your heart.
So I have two answers to this. My first answer is what you should do. My second answer is what I would do, just because I'm petty. You should just say no. I think if and I think also it depends on who goes first. Let's be real, because if Will goes first and then says yes, it's gonna throw a whole spanner in the works. She's gonna be very much like, whoa, what's gonna happen? And there's that hope being built up. She might then say yes. Because obviously if she goes first, if she still thinks that he's gonna say no, then yeah, she would then say no. So I feel like he's likely going to go first, because that's how I think that's the only way you're gonna really throw a spanner in the works. However, come on. If I was being petty, I would say yes, and then I would slowly start extricating myself emotionally from this relationship, and then be like, I want a divorce. If I was being petty, but really and truly, the healthy way of what you really should do is just say no, because if it's not, I would say if it's not a resounding yes, it's a no. And maybe is a no. Possibly is a no. If it's not 100% with clarity, yes, it's always going to be a no. And it's hard to come back from that, because you're always going to have that in the back of your mind that you told me you were going to say no. And unless this man does this like impassioned, you know what, I was just really scared. I know I have to change. I want to change. I'm sorry. I love you. Unless he does this really super impassioned speech, if he's not doing that, then just take the no and go, is what I would say. So yeah, but I know that obviously Brittany really likes him. So if there's hope, she's gonna grab onto that hope. And I just think that's a bit of it's a tricky place to be. And I wouldn't, if I was her friend, if I was Brittany's friend, I would tell her to just say no. If he decides to circle the block, he can circle the block. But in this time, right now, in front of these cameras, save your self-respect, my girl, and just say no.
Well, I'm definitely here. So, I think, with Will and Brittany, yeah, I don't know if she should accept it, but she might do. She might accept it, She might accept it because she says she loves him, so she might accept it, and she's finding herself kind of falling deeper with him. I just feel to myself, I don't know if just like I feel like okay, again, I feel like there's a lesson to learn, and I don't know if Brittany's learned the lesson. And of course, it's very difficult because you've been thrust into this situation. You want to make it work. I hope she does learn a lesson. I hope she learns a lesson in terms of. I actually think her instincts were right. I think her instincts have been right about him the very beginning. He's not into her, does not like her, you know, and she does need constant reassurance, but she's needed even more because he's not given, and her instincts are right. So I hope that she can learn that from here onwards, because, and I think Glenn might have said it a little bit earlier. She did also, like I said, use the body. Hopefully that maybe it would lure him in, but baby girl, we got to start using that mind, baby. We got to start using that brain, that mind, that personality. That's what we need to use first. I know we're married, but like you said, Precious, you did say people should be throwing themselves at having sex. And I think you're right. I think they should be giving themselves a little bit of time, especially on the show, because it's a unique process, and because it, you know, oftentimes you're putting yourself in the way of these experts who, I'm gonna be honest with you, are playing a game with your ass. Okay, they are experimenting, and when they're experimenting, you can be at their mercy. So, yes, I think sex should be off the table. And though it is a marriage, it's a trial marriage. You almost got to look at it. So it's like we're still in a relationship. So I need to get to know you, know who you are. Sex, let me take that off the table for a little while. Let me really get to know who you are, and understand who you are first before I get into that physical plane. Because that was one of the earliest fights that they actually had, or disagreements, and they haven't really come back from it since. It's been unrecoverable. Any last thoughts on Will and Brittany before we end the show?
I will say though, I know you're saying, you know, don't leave your body, and I agree, but she led with her mind, and he was basically rejecting her. So she got to the point where she didn't have no other choice but to leave with something. She said, "I'm gonna leave with something."
She did leave with something. No.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't leave with a baby. She didn't leave with a baby, thank God, but she left with something. So I think. Exactly. So I think in that situation, I think she definitely felt it. She felt the fact that he wasn't that interested in her, and I think she scrambled for someone. Because remember, in that first night, she was like, no sex. He was very open to having sex on the wedding night, but she was like, nah. Even when the Mile High Club thing came up, he was open to having it. She was like, shut that down. So maybe she was like trying to make it perfect, like, oh, we're gonna do it on a honeymoon, it's gonna be sweet, it's gonna be romantic. It didn't work out that way. And so yeah, so it's an interesting thing, but we'll see what happens. It's a shame because I was rooting for them. I was really hoping that the only black couple on the show would actually work out, but alas, we're here.
Yeah, I just hope, you know, somebody put in the chat, I hope she doesn't beg and plead for him to say yes. I hope she accepts whatever answer he gives, and if he changes, is on his own. Don't go out like that, begging and pleading for somebody who don't want to love you, or somebody that don't want to be with you. That's not a good look, right? It's not a good look for her. I want to say Lifetime, but Peacock shouldn't let that go down like that. What if they probably would, but she shouldn't. If it's not gonna work out, it's not gonna work out. No begging and pleading. Go out with your dignity. Go out with your respect.
Don't cry, don't beg.
Right, don't cry, don't beg. Hey, nope.
What's that meme? the man is outside in the car.
Don't cry, don't beg, Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. She needs to stay away from it. So you're absolutely right. I agree with you. She needs to make sure she doesn't fall into that desperation and beg for him back, because that boy don't want her. And he just saved her a whole bunch of pain. So I hope she can move forward quickly as well. You know, as well in that space. Okay. Well, listen, I think we've got some great opinions today, guys. You know, Peacock have obviously, you know, we're on the last throes of the show already, which is, you know, because they've given us 3 episodes every week or whatever, pretty much. the show is almost at the end. We're at decision day, and I'm guessing they're going to probably give us some after episodes as well. So, you know, it's good to be able to watch this season. I guess I was complaining at first. I'm thinking to myself, 3 or 4 episodes. It just means I can't review it the same way. But it is good to kind of have a few different episodes under your belt as well, to watch during the course of the week. So yeah, shout out to them with the new format. Hopefully the experts can be a bit more on board, like the Australian and the British one, because that would be very helpful. But we move, as they say. All right, audience, thank you so much.
Where's Dr. Pepper, please?
I don't know where she is. She's on vacation. Okay, her schedule doesn't allow for the changes, just like Chad's doesn't. So she's somewhere else. We don't know. You know what I mean? She's out here probably trying to fight for her marriage as well, because he's in the other, wherever house he's at, we don't know.
No, free Dr. Pepper. They have her locked up somewhere. Free that woman.
Yeah, well, they're still at different houses. She'll have to do her own. I'm sure she's doing her own situation. Trying to make it work.
Yep.
All right. Well, audience, we're gonna see you next Tuesday for more episodes on Married at First Sight. It's been a good conversation. Of course, more episodes are gonna drop on Thursday night. But I think it probably might even be Wednesday. I think it drops normally, but for us in the UK, well, the link I got anyway. But listen, make sure you guys are liking, you're sharing, you are subscribing, and you're clicking on that wonderful bell button for notifications of the uploads. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, people. Okay, all right. We are done.
Are you done? Are you done?
Little black book. You know what time it is. Time it is.